while since you've had one of those nightmares. Tell me, what was it about?
It's only fragments. Nothing's clear. You've been fighting the Harkonnens for decades.
Look!
My family's been fighting them for centuries.
Your blood comes from dukes and great houses. Here, we're equal. What we do for the benefit of all.
Well, I'd very much like to be equal to you.
Maybe I'll show you the way.
Deal with this prophet. Send assassins.
Fade Rother. He's psychotic.
I see possible futures all at once. And in so many futures, our enemies prevail. But I do see a way. There is a narrow way through. My allegiance is to you. Do you believe me?
This is a form of power that our world has not yet seen. The ultimate power.
I want you to know I will love you as long as I breathe.
You will never lose me as long as you stay who you are.
Consider what you're about to do, Paul Atreides.
Silence!
This prophecy is how they enslave us! You are not prepared for what is to come.
Boom, there you go. That was the trailer for Dune Part 2. Arriving in theaters on March 1st. It's your boy Kuya P, and I'm joined by my pal, Heather. Don't hurt him. How are you, Heather?
Hello. Good. How are you?
Heather Hurt in the building. She will throw down like a sandworm if you mess with her. How are you?
Like a grandfather sandworm.
Like a grandfather sandworm. Those are the big boys. It's a pleasure to chat with you, homie. As of this recording, we just watched the film last night, so it's fresh in our heads, and I know the people are ready to hear what we gotta say. Let's get into it, Heather. What did you think coming in? Were you a fan of the franchise? You and I kind of talked about it a little bit before. I don't know if we did the reacts, but Dune Part 1, off camera, you told me that you have like fam that are all about this. What is your vibes about the Dune franchise?
Are you talking about just overall or just
overall? Yeah, right now.
Okay. I am. My household was very much with my father was very much a Tolkien Herbert household. My dad does everything Dune. My dad does everything Tolkien. So it's like this is in my blood. I was watching Patrick Stewart in the original film when I was a child because he was one of my favorite actors. So he was in the old G1.
Wow, I gotta watch it again.
He was. It's some nerd shit, but I love the franchise. It is a strong contender for one of the best sci-fi series of all time. It's also family oriented. Herbert's, child was a heavy part of this. I was very interested to see. I had my speculations of what this part was going to be about, and I was accurate somehow or another. And I love the Dune franchise. What about you?
I remember, I guess somewhat, not totally, because I completely forgot Patrick Stewart was in it. I remember there being some like 80s star with like beautiful hair. I forgot what his name was, with like long hair, that he was like the main figure in the first Dune film, maybe. I'm forgetting his name. Anyway, but maybe I enjoyed his hair and I like wanted his hair. I don't know. I'm a
maybe I was
guy
just
now.
like, I don't
So
remember. Maybe
that is
jealous.
that's it.
You
That's
jealous.
the memory. But I remember just remembering it being really cool, and just the concept of it was just like more like educated, grown, if you will, than Star Wars. You know, I felt it was just like more dignified in a way. So yeah, I respected it, but it's been a minute since I've seen it. Because they would play, Star Wars more than they would play Dune, like on TV or cable, right? To be honest, or at least my observation. But yeah, remember that somewhat. Remember they tried doing different things. When Dune Part 1 came out didn't it come out during the pandemic? I want to say it came out during the pandemic. The first,
either that or right after. I think 2020.
yeah,
I think it was 20. No, I think it was 2022.
because I think it messed it up a little bit on what they wanted to do release wise and such. But I know it did well, and I enjoyed it. It was epic. Denis Villeneuve, if I'm pronouncing his name right. I know I'm probably messing it up. French cat, I believe. Handled is an amazing writer, director, producer. He, took this franchise, and I think he did a phenomenal job with Part 1. I do have some reservations, which we'll get into when we get to our review of Part 2. But I thought he did a phenomenal job. It's very entertaining, very inspiring. Just he's an epic filmmaker, and you get epicness, you get sci-fi, you get all the things that you want out of this kind of a type of film in regards to like sci-fi genre type stuff. Yeah, they delivered with Part 1, so I was very curious what they were going to do with Part 2. All the actors in it well cast, although when I get into my other feelings, I think they're missing a few points. But yeah, I think overall I was excited for it. The trailers for this looked amazing, and yeah, I was very excited to see this one. So yeah, very curious about how this one was going to be. With that being said, Part 2, story. If I can throw it to you, Heather, we didn't actually brief this beforehand, going back and forth real quick. If you can maybe kind of give like a short breakdown, log line of what this Part 2 story was, since as you said, it was kind of tied to the books, I think, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. This part was that we were in the central part. The way that my husband put it, we're in the Two Towers section of this film. We're in the growing, the walking a lot, the learning segment of the books. Prior to Messiah, for those of you who know the books, we have Dune, then we have Messiah, then we have Children of. We're kind of pre-Messiah at this point. Not to go into too many details because I don't want to really spoil anything yet. And a lot of this is just growth. Is Paul understanding what he needs to do to be a Fremen and what he needs to also do to be himself. And he also needs to learn, and what he's also trying to figure out is how to abuse both points of that. He is an aristocrat in so many ways. And so when aristocrats know what they need to do to keep the power that they need, through that, him and Chani do grow a stronger relationship that we saw slowly blooming in the first film. He finally learns how to ride a sandworm. He is formally accepted into the Fremen and receives his Fremen name, Mahdi. Or
was it Ursal? I thought it was Ursal. Because they were using both.
So it's Mahdi Usul.
Oh,
that is his full name. So when you're Fremen, you are given a name and you take a name. So that's his name, Mahdi Usul. So Usul was what was given to him by the leader, and it was given to him by Stilgar. And I'm sorry, I blanked for a sec. It's like leader, Stilgar is the only leader. I don't know why I'm thinking anything else. But we also get to see what is incredibly timely. Ironically, we get to see the back and forth of the impacts of genocide and imperialism, and how religious fervor can take hold. This is, of course, a statement on singularity, religion, and control with religion. We get to see how it impacts people, especially indigenous peoples that it's forced upon. So what this is the growing episode. This is the time where we get to see that growth, see who people are. Then of course we definitely get to see who Jessica is, which is an absolute wonderful thing, how brainwashed she is and how much she is willing to brainwash others.
Jessica being the mom, right?
Jessica, yes, she is.
Okay.
She becomes the Reverend Mother of the.
Got it. Okay. I didn't know her by like the name. I just Reverend Mother throughout this one. There you go, y'all. Heather bringing the nerd credit to Nerds Rule the World, because I sure didn't read the books. So salutations, bravo, thank you so much, Heather, giving our nerd cred, because my nerd card would have been revoked if I was to explain the story, because again, I just saw some of the films a little bit, if you will. So yeah, what do we think of the story? For me, woo! Okay.
It's the wrong time. It's the wrong time and the wrong place.
Wrong time yet. Okay,
I'm
gonna save it. I'll just say I enjoyed the story.
No. I'm in the movie. The movie is the wrong time.
But I also got some certain feelings in regards to it, but I want to save that for later. So just overall the story, I just thought it was epic. Epic. I like how it played out. Watching a character kind of go from, this, because I actually watched part 1 right before we saw this part 2. And just seeing this character grow, we're watching this evolution, which is really cool. You get to go on this journey with this character and see why he makes certain decisions and whether they be good or bad. I think they really did it well, and we were along this journey. And so, like, I'm ready for this installment. I actually thought it was going to end with this, but Heather was like, "No, this is just part 2. We're gonna get like part 3. Is it a trilogy?" But it's also, like you said, a ton of books, so they could actually go on forever, like James Bond, right, Heather?
There are so many books that it puts. One of my favorite jokes is that people were complaining about how Twilight was 3 books and how it felt so long when you have people showing entire bookshelves full of Dune and Star Trek books. You're talking about series that could literally go on in infinity. We've got growth, and the fact that we will probably, would I be surprised if we ended at Children of Dune with this series and we actually see more than 3 parts? Not at all. I would actually see us going further than that.
So do we know if it was slated for 3 films? Like, because generally they do like trilogies. They don't say like 4 films. Like that.
I think that their original concept was that Dune, which is what we're at. So technically, we're moving into the Messiah series. So technically, Dune, the original series, is going to be in 2 parts, and then we'll probably do the Messiah series as part 3, or the Messiah series, Messiah book as part 3. So would it be surprising if it's at least a trilogy? I think they said that they were always planning for three films.
Okay.
So
I should put this. I was in a press conference earlier today. That with CCA we had. I don't know if I told you this, Heather. Yeah, writer director Denis Villeneuve was taking questions, and I wish I would have had that question. I would have asked that question, but instead I just kind of listened in while I was doing other things. But yeah, because now I'm curious because I don't want to spoil for the people, and we're going to talk, a little bit more. But there's ways they could keep this going after part 2 right now. And as you were saying, they could do a whole lot more if they so choose. But yeah, I enjoyed the story overall. How about you, Heather? Because I'm going to save my other stuff for like overall vibes.
Sure. The movie was incredibly classic. The scenery was gorgeous. This was probably one of the most beautiful sci-fi films in a long, long time. I would even say prettier than part 1. Some of the imagery was so classic sci-fi, beautiful painted sets versus, your traditional, your modern day traditional CGI imagery. You actually had these beautiful things that look like they were pulled out of Herbert's poster books. Like there's incredibly beautiful scenes with important environments that emphasize who these characters are. I'm going to use Fahid Rotha, who is the gentleman right behind me, the bald guy right behind me. If you don't know who he is, I'm not going to spoil it. Just know he's there. They get into a fight. That's all that's going to happen.
Great fight scene.
It's a great. We'll get into that. But it's one of those where it was beautiful. You figure out who he is very clearly, in the environment that they create around him makes it so poignant. Another really important note for a film that is incredibly bloody, in theory, it is not at all. This is actually almost, I wouldn't say like exactly family friendly, because there's a lot of elements of death, genocide, imperialism, a whole bunch of like religious stuff that the children would just go straight over kids' heads. But there were massive deaths, and there was very little blood, very little visual of it. And it actually didn't, which actually helped not take away from certain elements. Sometimes too much blood, you don't need it. But what you can have is you can have great fight scenes.
To that.
Yeah, we can have great fight scenes. You can have great elements of abuse and neglect and all this fun stuff without having carnage. And this film was actually a perfect example of that.
Well said, Heather. Yeah, I'm thinking about it. Yeah, I completely agree on all points. Shows you how. Yeah. Just I was trying to figure out my words there, but
it's incredibly normal. I don't know about you. There were times. I'm not, once again, trying not to spoil. There was a specific scene where it was a couple of it's a little bit of hand-to-hand combat. Sorry, and it looked like it could have gotten really bloody. Lots of like gut and throat stuff. But what she did is it was really quick. And then the person was down and it was done. You didn't have like blood gushing out everywhere. And it was actually so surprising and so not with the normal nowadays that I would actually like clench. I'm not afraid of that. I love horror. I love gore, but I was just kind of like clenching in preparation and then it never came. But I still had all of that impact. It just wasn't blurred out by, blood.
Completely agree. I think in the hands of any other director in Hollywood who, let's say Quentin Tarantino, you get good blood gushing, all other kind of stuff, right? Like in the hands of any other cat, Denis Villeneuve, and I'm sorry if I'm brutalizing his name, is a phenomenal filmmaker. I am like awed by this guy. And when you see this film, and if you saw part one, he took it to another level with part two. Like he is epic with his shots. Like he will give you that, as to Heather's point, you feel like it's coming and you see it, but then he knows to quickly turn away from that because that isn't the intention. We don't need to be sitting in all that. He gives you that delivery that you already need to have to make it impactful without showing it all. You know what I'm saying? You'll get like a slight, but that's all that's necessary. You don't need to see all that extra. Even though, sometimes you may want those extra, because like Heather was saying, we love blood and guts, we love horror films and stuff like that, but you see how it's so much unnecessary in a way with like this film because it's artistic, because he's going to deliver another whole amazing shot right after that. So you don't need to linger on that because he's going to give you something else epic immediately after that. So, amazing. Where are we at? So story is amazing because I want to get into like other things, and let's get to the cast. And actually, that's where I have a little something to say there. Let me throw it back to you, Heather, before I say my statements about the cast.
I have a feeling that I know exactly what the conversation is going to be about because fiction is not always stranger than reality. Sometimes it mirrors it entirely, and sometimes it is the anti of what you're seeing. And it's going to end with Chalamet, and that's what I think is going to happen. So the acting was phenomenal. For the most part, the characters were done amazingly well. I love that Dave Bautista, who played Beast Robin. He played a much scarier character in the first film. I don't know why they downplayed his character so much, even as the second, even as the weaker quote unquote brother, they really downplayed him. And Bautista has such an incredible, he's got such a wide range. Having him just really knocked down, just really kind of hurt. Javier Bardem, as always, was wonderful. I'm pretty sure that man has no fault when it comes to acting. Even when he does like the goofy shit, he's still phenomenal at what he does. Yeah. I'm trying to think. Everyone was great. Jessica did Rebecca Ferguson. Sorry, I keep saying Jessica. She did wonderful. I'm glad Josh Brolin. They had to bring him back. That's what his character does. But what I will say is, I will also say this: the fact that this film just continues to add very, very famous people, and there's not that many that don't have huge names behind them. And the reason I'm going to say that is because of a main character that will come in the future. So, and you do see a small glimpse of her in this film. This movie could have been a great opportunity for a lot of small actors. This could have been very Lord of the Ringsy, where you could have had amazing talent come in and do this exact same thing. Not everyone needs to be a big name all the time. But this movie is just full of big names. And Christopher Walken, that man sounds like a Northerner, no matter what you do. He does not sound like he's from some distant forest planet, no matter where you come from.
He's the most awkward casting in it, to be honest. Of all the characters,
and it's really weird. It's just he's just a really weird casting. but it's also a perfect example. You don't always need a name. You could have had an incredible actor who's seen very little airtime, but did a far more realistic job in that position. There wasn't that many lines, and that would have been a great opportunity for somebody. But I like the acting overall. It is a continuation of a solid cast.
Completely agree, with the exception of Walken, like you said.
So weird. It's weird.
So weird. So my thing with this cast is, I think, brilliant cast, amazingly shot, beautifully shot. Like Denis Villeneuve is a phenomenal director, writer, just everything is beautiful with this. It's just, my thing with this is, it's taking a lot of influences from like the Middle East and Swana culture, and just, there's languages that are being spoken, even though there's like certain made up languages, but they're rooted in, I want to say, Farsi and some other stuff. Because I've been talking to some other Middle Eastern friends of mine. Shout out to the Nerds of Color, who I'm affiliated with, Nerds with World. I've done a lot of stuff with them. And Swara Ahmed, he's got to check out Swara over at Nerds of Color. He's got a lot of statements in regards to this. But just how Middle Eastern people are represented. And one of his biggest things, and I would agree with him, is just how this borrows from a lot of that. While this is brilliantly casted, and I think everybody's phenomenal, but it's just like you borrow so much from that culture, but yet you have very few representation within the casting. You know what I'm saying? Again, this is sci-fi epic. There's going to be a lot of white people that is in this that are involved because they're like coming in from the other worlds. But then at the same time, it is space. Space shouldn't have to apply to those same things. That's why Star Trek is so beautiful in that way, that there's so many different, things. But, I don't know. Like, I can see to certain things, but like, at least within like this world, I would say, you want to see more of that. And I don't know. I'm kind of mixed on it. I definitely see his points, and I agree. Especially when you borrow from certain cultures. And so that's just my thing. And so I just want to give a shout out to Swara. See his commentary on the Nerds of Color. But yeah, I just can't help but see, like, when you watch this, especially this installment, how they're, you're following Timothée Chalamet through this, and he's getting indoctrinated into this world, and you're seeing all these beautiful peoples, but, and there's a lot of African indigenous mixed in there. And then, but you see like the Middle Eastern, but it's not really though. And it's, you'd like to see more of that. And I don't know. So I think it's, again, brilliant casted, well acted, but you just kind of, as you're watching it as a person of color, like, okay, yeah, when you borrow from that, it's kind of weird. And I guess this will lead into, our overall review, because another thing that really hit me, and I don't know if this is what you were thinking, Heather, but some of the scary stuff, there's a black and white scene, which is very cool creatively, but it's like, it's very Nazi-esque. And when we finally get introduced to that character that Heather's talking about, that's, on her side, our Elvis, he's a great actor, I gotta say. He played Elvis, and now he's this bald-headed, I forgot the character's name, Heather. But it's terrifying. It's beautiful. Again, Denis Villeneuve is a brilliant filmmaker, but like, man, just all this white, all these white bald-headed people. I'm scared of bald-headed white people, Heather. But it's like, it takes so many elements from Nazi stuff, and this commentary has nothing to do with film. Again, beautiful film, well done, but like, I don't know if it just struck a nerve with me, Heather, and it's just like, it's scary, and I'm curious, like, I feel like the people that are going to watch this review, like Patrick, here comes the woke media talking about stuff again. But like, man, are you actually watching this stuff? Like, this stuff is scary. And like, this is I don't know if these books are trying to talk on this, Heather, but like, man, I was just really surprised on how this stuff is talking on things, and just, it's scary all at the same time. But like, it has, like, we're watching like the army build, and it's just very reflective of seeing black and white videos from Hitler with his troops. And like, are we learning from this? And then we have this indigenous stuff, and then Zendaya. I'm gonna try not. I'm not gonna spoil, but my girl's promised to be with her man Timothée Chalamet, but things go different, and I'm gonna leave it there, because Heather said this is all reflects the book, so it shouldn't be spoiling. If you didn't read the books, but I didn't read the books, so it might be spoiling. But I don't know. I feel some kind of way, Heather. There's I have a lot of feelings, and I guess I wasn't prepared to bring my feelings. I thought I was. Heather, save me, because I feel like I'm going off the rails with my feelings. I enjoy this film, y'all. Dune Part 2, go check it out. It's classic. It's inspiring. But man, I'm curious if Middle America's like, oh, here comes another woke film. Do you think they're going to do that? Or they're not even realizing it? It's actually speaking on that stuff. And am I right or wrong? Or is this speaking on these things? Because it's just what I glaringly saw as a person of color.
I was letting you keep going. You're kind of spitting here. So I'm gonna take a step back to what you were talking about when it comes to the people of color. First off, listen to people of color. They have valid concerns of all times. This book absolutely drew on Middle Eastern concepts and the actual empirical and colonialization of the Middle East. This was actually a very important statement on it, but we'll get to that in a second. But that does not mean that even though that those were the concepts, that we should be disrespecting the types of representation that are needed. There was representation, but just because you have a couple of people in a room does not make it correct. So please listen to people of color at all time. However, what I am going to do here, please don't get mad at me. I am going to provide a little bit of compare and contrast, because it's always important to also look at the original context and the original story when we're talking about this stuff. Because when it comes to things like the way that people feel, you are feeling like that on purpose. One of the wonderful things about science fiction, one of the wonderful things about comic books, one of the wonderful things about art in general is that they are meant to create questions. They are meant to cause you to think about stuff. And they're also meant to prove and teach you. And one of Herbert's whole point of this is that he is exposing major issues related to white colonialism, white religious fervor, fanaticalism, and the impacts of rumor, along with the impacts of imperialism and fascism, a whole bunch of stuff that sci-fi has always commented about. It has always been there. It has always been underneath everything. So what you're seeing is exactly what you are supposed to see. And if you are feeling something because of that, then that means that the story is doing its job. Do you feel that there's some fascism in this? Absolutely. That is what it's supposed to feel like. Do you feel like you are seeing stuff in the modern day that Herbert put in the books and that is reflected in this movie? Absolutely. Timothée Chalamet has been called a Zionist for a reason. There is problems there. There is he is playing a character fighting against genocide, and yet he is showing elements of Zionism in his work. So with that being said, you have someone who is directly going against his own character's sensibilities in this situation. It's like, that actually really, really, really got me. I was just like, his character is fighting against the same thing that he's fighting for in real life. But what this also shows is it shows that time is a flat circle. Things that Frank Herbert was trying to teach us, was trying to expose to us in his books, they are still happening today. This is the third reincarnation of Dune. And we have seen it time and time again. These are not new themes. These are not new strategies. Do we have a little bit more representation than we have in all of the other versions? 100%. Is it enough? No. But are we seeing these same timelines going up and down, up and down? Absolutely. And it's actually exposing a huge glaring issue, because even back in the day, let's say even the Sci-Fi Channel version of the Dune series, there wasn't as much fear, and that was right during the Twin Towers situation. So with that being said, but what we're seeing now is this is a lot scarier, and it's not just how it was filmed, it's not just how the story is being told. We are seeing direct elements of what is happening in this film today.
Yeah.
There are themes. Once again, sometimes fiction is not stranger than reality, because it is happening today. So to take that all back, if you are feeling upset, if you are feeling scared, if you are feeling like something is not right about this, then the story is telling you exactly what you need to know so that you can start thinking, you can start talking, you can start bringing that up. And if you think that this is woke, I'm sorry, go back and look at any science fiction history ever. Herbert wrote these books in 1965. And let me tell you, these are pretty on point. Is it exact? Absolutely not. But it's one of those where if this is making you talk, if it is bringing up problems that you see that you want to bring up to other people, then that's exactly what sci-fi and fantasy want you to do. Bring this up, talk about it, because these are problems that are happening in the real world, not just the fantastical.
Word. Heather, yeah, girl, like, man, there's just like so much in there that I just wonder if people are like, my parents love sci-fi, but they don't really see the subcontext, and it just drives me nuts. Well, my mom does a little bit. My father is a NRA Republican, and you know me, Heather. I'm the farthest from that. That's why me and my father don't get along so well. It's crazy, but like, he'll love this film, but he won't see what it's really speaking on, and it just drives me crazy.
The problem with underlying themes is that often you don't see that. And actually, I could say you could see that in the progression of how Dune has been remade. In that first version, what you saw is a very archaic, army first kind of story. It was far less about the indigenous people and taking in part and using those people to your advantage. The Dune franchise that was created by sci-fi, you got a little bit more of the religious aspect of it, but that's because we were right at the point where that religious fervor was so strong, especially in the Middle East, and we were trying to there was an exposure to how that colonialism impacted modern day religious heretics. There we go. I'm going to try to think the word. And who would do anything they could to get what they wanted. So you see it reflecting the time, whereas now there is a lot more fascism in this version, glaring fascism in this version, than we have seen in others. But that's because they're taking that subtext and they're making that more forward because of the sign of the times. It's scary. And the thing is that the people who don't want to see it will never see it because they don't understand, because they are already denying it when they walk into the movie theater. They are already denying it when they pick up a book. You see it so much with the X-Men conversation right now. If you're mad that Rogue has lost her little, you can be mad. That girl deserves that peach. But if you are upset that it is about the civil rights movement when the X-Men was always about the civil rights and queer movement, I'm sorry, that's literally what it was about. Be mad, be angry. It's always been there. You have just never wanted to look into it. So unfortunately, you're going to have people who are screaming that this is woke. It always was. Welcome to science fiction. It was always breaking the boundaries. Science fiction has never been two sexes. It has never been anything like that. It has always been a spectrum and an exposure. That's what science fiction and fantasy has always been.
Well said, Heather. Yeah, it's crazy, it's wild, it's scary, and I just have so many feelings and vibes. Because like I'm just curious if everyone else is gonna see the subcontext here. Because as a person of color watching this, like I'm watching like the character behind you. Like again, shout out. I want to keep on calling him Elvis because he plays Elvis. You know, a great actor, and he's watched Masters of Air, y'all, on Apple TV. He's good on there too.
It's really good. It's really good.
Good looking cat, but then he's like this evil bald headed dude in Dune too. Yeah, man, like I'm just curious, like I'm watching this and I'm like, yo, I wonder if people are feeling that, but just like that, it was like very Nazi Germany, like videos and then the build up and then just, the talks about religion, like, man, I really enjoyed myself, Heather. Again, everybody, this is a Dune review part 2. I love this film. This shit is phenomenal, but also, there's certain things as a person of color, like, I want that representation there, as I said earlier, in regards to like casting, but like, are people seeing the subcontext that they're talking about? And like, Heather, I know I'm going off the rails again, like Zendaya, like, Timothée Chalamet, I'm gonna be there for you, girl. And like, I'm feeling some kind of way, Heather, right now. Like, I don't want to spoil, but I need Zendaya to get like revenged up because like, what's up with that? Like,
you need to read the books. You need to read the books to see what happens.
I just want her to get her due. But yeah, I just feel like how, again, here comes, like I said, you come to my planet, you make use of my resources, you do all your things, and it's back on them again. And it's just like, growing up as a person of color, like that's what we watching this whole time. They come abuse us, build this whole religion, and I love how they speak on religion in this thing so much, and just how religion can create wars and all that. Just, well, Well, good writing, Heather. And I'm sorry if I'm off the rails. How did you feel as a fan of this? Do you think they did everything good to help close this out? Because I know I'm rambling, but
No,
I enjoy this, but it affected me in a lot of ways. And I'm sorry that I'm not being a little bit better with my feelings.
No, it's okay. Being eloquent is something that, so when you have strong feelings about something, saying things in a specific order can be a little bit heavy, and it makes sense. And what I hope from this movie, I really, really loved it. And what I cannot wait from it is the conversations that are going to have from it, that are going to come from it. What I will say is this, because we're kind of seeing it already, and we saw this with other films, so I'm not going to point it out. Please look at it from both perspectives. So I feel like I'm being a super white person here when I say this, but remember, sometimes it's not strictly about, the conversation shouldn't strictly be about, let's say, race. It should be, why are those races underrepresented, and how is that an impact to the story? Because especially when it comes to stories like this, where there are so many overtones and so many undertones purposely put in regarding race, regarding fascism, regarding these things. Please don't get mad at me. I want more diversity. I'm just trying to use an example here, just because we're talking about it. It'll be very interesting to see the conversations, and it'll also be very interesting to see the book readers talk versus the actual people, versus people who only watch the movies, which both are valid. Both are very valid opinions. Because what I'm hoping is that conversations like this happen, where we can openly go, okay, maybe the reason that you feel this way is because it was on purpose, or maybe the reason that I'm not seeing that is because I've only read the books, kind of thing. I cannot wait for those types of conversations to happen, because they definitely will. This movie was brilliant, and it's going to bring a lot of conversation.
Yes. I am looking forward to it, Heather. Hopefully when I get all my thoughts together, we can have another conversation about it. But yeah, outstanding, epic, brilliant, despite, just again, casting was, but then at the same, like I was saying, I understand in regards to certain casting, because we're actually dealing with like these white upper crust dealings within the household. And we learned through this journey, which I don't want to spoil, and why they would make decisions. Like it was no surprise why Zendaya would get, something would happen with Zendaya's character, because that's just what things happen. Like
you're gonna get stuck on. You have to understand the empirical nature of what happened. We'll talk about it off air. Don't worry. I'm trying
not to spoil for y'all. But I felt it, and it's so real. You know what I'm saying? So it just makes sense in certain respects. But I really enjoy this film, y'all. Go see Dune Part 2. See it in IMAX. I remember Heather was stressing that when we saw the film. Just the rumble, the sound. I actually want to maybe see it in 4X, where they do all the different things. Would that be too much?
I'm feeling I'm ready to get sick.
Where they shake you and everything, Heather? Would you?
I've never been in one before, and I really want to. I would be curious to see it in 4X. I would see it in 4DX.
I think Dune would be a good 4X film. There's certain films that I think deserves that treatment. Some maybe not too much, but I think this would be cool. Yeah.
Maybe. Rock on if you want to.
All right, Heather, any last comments before we get up out of here?
No, be open to conversation. Be open to conversation, and make sure you're listening to those who are talking to you.
All right, y'all. Dune Part 2, recommend. I really enjoy this film, and I'm looking forward to the conversation, because I feel so many things. Again, beautifully shot, amazing. The commentary it's talking about, the context within it. I'm just curious. I'm just waiting for Milk America. Oh, here comes another woke film. They're going to say it, but like,
happen. It's going to happen.
That's what sci-fi, like you said, X-Men, like y'all must not have really been paying attention. And of course, they have like middle school educations, Heather. What do you expect from Middle America?
No, what's really scary is a lot of these people have college education.
That is true. You know what? Let me not, because that's why certain people are in power too. Like, anyway. There you go, y'all. We don't get on soapboxes over here. It's the NRW. Nerds rule the world. Heather giving us our nerd card officialness, because I didn't read any of the books. I'm just enjoying the ride. This is a great film. It's inspiring. It's crazy. And I want to talk, y'all. So hit us up in the comments, y'all. Heather, your boy Kuya, Dune Part 2, y'all. Peace. up, y'all? Your boy PP and our dub nerds rule the world. Heading off to the press screening for Dune Part 2 here at AMC Tyson's Corner. I'll be back with my review very soon, y'all. What's up, y'all? Your boy Creepy and Heather. We're here at the AMC Tyson's Corner. We just got out of the press screening for Dune, y'all. Watch out for them sandworms. Just enjoy the press screening. What do you think, Heather?
Loved it. As a classic sci-fi nerd, like this hit all of the correct buttons. And we would say we wouldn't spoil, but if you've read the books, then
well, I didn't read the books. I did see the first film, and I remember the OG film back in the 80s. 80s? Was 80s?
Yes.
Yeah. Didn't read the book, but if you enjoyed that, this is straight up epic sci-fi. So many amazing visuals, so inspiring. We're going to have to do a full review because I got a lot of things to talk about.
Just a little bit longer.
Yeah, I got a lot of things to talk about, y'all. Crazy.
Make sure to see it in IMAX for 100%.
Yeah.
Like, y'all know that we're not the type of people that are just like throwing out spending money if you have to. Yeah. See this one in IMAX.
There you go, y'all. Your boy Kuya, Heather. Stay tuned for our review and our dub.
Oh my God, look at how terrible that back screen is. There we go. Hey, look, Dune.
We're at Dune, y'all.
Just saw it in IMAX. A lot of fun. I don't know if we remember how to do this. Do we remember how to respond to a movie? It's been so long since we've done this.
It has been a minute, but we're not going to spoil. No. But if you saw the first part 1, it delivered with the part 2. Yeah, it gave you the same sci-fi epicness that is the Dune series, at least for me. What did you think, Heather?
Honestly, if you want a classic 1950s, 1960s sci-fi film, this movie gave it in stride. There were moments that were just straight out of a freaking sci-fi poster, like poster book. It was beautiful. Trying to get that IMAX going on. It's just not working out that well.
Very inspiring. We're gonna have a full review. We really got to talk about this, Heather.
Just a little bit. All right. Dune is available. Is hitting theaters exclusively on March 1. Make sure to check out an IMAX because trust me, you need to see it in IMAX. Like seriously, see it in those IMAXs.
Get your popcorn sandworm bucket. But be good with it.
Be good with it. Check out Dune in IMAX on March 1. Also, check out our full review on the NRW or Nerds Rule the World because I told you I forgot how to do that.
It's been a minute. You see, AMC just got out of the press screening here at AMC Tyson's Corner for Dune Part 2. We recorded a reaction. You'll see that, or we're gonna do a whole review later. But y'all, real quick, epic. If you saw the first one, just as dope. I got a lot of things to talk about, so make sure you tune into our review. But yeah, this was wild, man. Dune Part 2. I got a thing of popcorn here and some icy to make my way home. But I'm gonna be out now, y'all. Your boy Kuya and our dub. Nerds Rule the World. It's time to go home.